King Charles didn't literally hand Camilla's crown to Catherine, Princess of Wales, but according to reports, something just as important may have happened. The influence and authority that come with the role appear to be shifting, and the way it allegedly unfolded has left plenty of royal watchers talking. What makes the story even more surprising is that Camilla reportedly made one final attempt to secure her position, only for palace officials to dismiss the idea almost immediately, without any sign of serious debate. That doesn't sound like a simple disagreement between husband and wife. It sounds much more like an institutional decision. When you look back at everything that has happened over the past 2 decades, the situation starts to feel less like a sudden change and more like a carefully planned transition that has been developing quietly while public attention stays focused on other royal headlines. To understand why people believe the balance inside the palace may be changing, you have to go back to 2005. One detail from that period is often forgotten. When Charles and Camilla married, there was widespread discussion about how her future royal role would be presented to the public. At the time, the expectation shared publicly was that she would be known as Princess Consort rather than Queen. That announcement wasn't made by accident. Public opinion after Princess Diana's death remained incredibly strong, and many believed the palace wanted to avoid creating even more controversy. Later, however, Queen Elizabeth II expressed her wish that Camilla would eventually be known as Queen Consort. Even so, many people continued to remember the earlier promise, and the difference between those titles remained an important part of the public conversation. Looking back now, many royal commentators argued that the original expectations gradually faded away. Once Charles became king in 2022, Camilla officially became Queen Consort, and the palace presented the change as a natural step. For some observers, it seemed perfectly reasonable. For others, it felt like the story had quietly been rewritten over time. After spending years facing criticism from parts of the public, Camilla finally reached the position many people once believed would never happen. Yet even with the title and the royal ceremonies, reports continued to suggest that her influence behind palace walls was not always as extensive as many assumed. According to various royal insiders, Camilla was not always included in every major discussion involving the long-term future of the monarchy. Stories have claimed that decisions involving succession planning, future strategy, major initiatives, and long-term priorities were often handled elsewhere before reaching her office, if they reached it at all. While she carried the title, attended state occasions, and represented the crown at official events, reports suggested that some of the most important strategic conversations remained outside her direct involvement. From the outside, everything appeared polished and united. But behind palace doors, the structure may have been far more complicated than most people realized. The relationship between Camilla and Catherine has also attracted years of speculation. Publicly, both women have always appeared respectful and professional whenever they attended engagements together. They smiled, greeted crowds, and carried out their duties exactly as expected. Behind the scenes, however, various reports have suggested their relationship was never especially close. They worked together when necessary, remained courteous, and avoided public tension, but there has never been much evidence that they shared the kind of personal friendship sometimes imagined by the public. It often looked more like two experienced professionals carrying out official responsibilities than two close family members enjoying each other's company. As time passed, subtle changes reportedly began appearing inside the institution. If their relationship had always remained polite but distant, many started wondering whether that distance would eventually influence how responsibilities inside the monarchy were divided. While headlines around the world stayed focused on Harry and Meghan, streaming projects, interviews, and family disagreements, another story was quietly unfolding inside royal circles. According to reports, Catherine was doing far more than attending ceremonies and cutting ribbons. Instead, she was gradually building a reputation for preparation, consistency, and long-term thinking. Royal commentators have suggested that she focused less on headlines and more on establishing herself as someone capable of handling increasingly important responsibilities inside the institution. Her early childhood initiative became one of the clearest examples. Rather than simply lending her name to a charitable cause, Catherine worked alongside researchers, specialists, educators, and public officials to promote discussions about child development and early intervention. That approach made many observers view her work differently from the more traditional royal engagements seen in previous generations. Instead of relying only on ceremonial appearances, she increasingly spoke about research, measurable outcomes, and long-term social impact. According to reports, palace officials noticed that she consistently followed projects through instead of simply launching them before moving on. That reportedly earned respect not only from the public but also from senior figures within the royal household. Then everything changed in early 2024. Catherine announced that following abdominal surgery, further testing had revealed cancer and she would be receiving treatment. The news shocked people around the world. Her personal video message immediately became one of the defining royal moments of recent years because it felt calm, honest, and deeply personal. The public response was enormous. Messages of support poured in from across Britain and around the world. Outside Kensington Palace, flowers and handwritten notes quickly appeared. Many commentators remarked that it was one of the strongest emotional reactions surrounding a senior royal in many years because so many people genuinely admired Catherine. Rather than disappearing completely, she carefully balanced privacy with openness. She asked for understanding, protected her children's privacy, and returned to public life only when she felt ready. For many people, that measured approach strengthened public confidence instead of weakening it. Reports later suggested that Catherine's handling of such a difficult period also made a strong impression inside the palace. King Charles was dealing with his own health challenges at the same time, leading many commentators to believe that questions about the monarchy's future naturally became more urgent. According to reports, senior figures increasingly focused on one important question: who had both the public's confidence and the ability to help guide the monarchy through difficult years ahead? Several insiders claimed the answer was becoming clearer with every passing month. Catherine's popularity remained remarkably strong, her public image stayed steady, and her growing experience reportedly made her an increasingly central figure in discussions about the future direction of the royal family. For Camilla, if those reports are accurate, the atmosphere may have begun to feel different. There wasn't one dramatic confrontation, one explosive argument, or one unforgettable palace showdown. Instead, observers described something much quieter. The balance inside the institution appeared to be shifting little by little, almost without anyone noticing at first. Sometimes the biggest changes don't arrive with shouting or headlines. Sometimes they happen through small decisions, quiet meetings, and responsibilities that slowly move from one person to another. According to growing speculation, that may have been exactly what was beginning to happen, leaving many people wondering whether an even bigger royal power shift was still waiting just around the corner. Little by little, reports suggested that the atmosphere around Camilla was beginning to change. Advisors who had once regularly consulted her were allegedly spending more time elsewhere, and some of the biggest discussions inside the palace appeared to be moving in a different direction. While Camilla was reportedly trying to protect her position, the institution itself seemed to be preparing for a different future. By the spring of 2025, the rumors had reportedly grown into major headlines. Several royal commentators claimed that King Charles was gradually shifting more responsibility toward Catherine, Princess of Wales. This wasn't simply about adding a few extra public engagements or charity visits. According to the reports, it was about giving Catherine a much larger role in helping shape the monarchy while reducing Camilla's influence over key responsibilities. Many experienced royal watchers noted that this no longer looked like a temporary arrangement. Instead, they believed it reflected a broader change in how the royal family planned for the years ahead. To many observers, the balance of influence inside the palace appeared to be moving steadily toward William and Catherine, leaving Camilla in a far less central position than before. One of the biggest talking points involved royal patronages. For senior royals, these are far more than ceremonial titles. Patronages represent long-term commitments, relationships with charities, cultural organizations, hospitals, educational institutions, and many of the causes that define a royal's public legacy. According to several reports, some important patronages that had long been associated with Camilla were increasingly being linked with Catherine instead. If accurate, this represented far more than a scheduling adjustment. These were organizations Camilla had spent years supporting, attending, and promoting throughout countless official engagements. Royal observers argued that moving responsibilities like these would naturally send a strong message about the direction the institution wanted to take. In royal life, responsibilities often reveal far more than official statements ever do, and many believed these quiet changes spoke volumes without anyone needing to make a public announcement. Beyond the patronages, reports also suggested another important development. Catherine was allegedly becoming more involved in conversations with some of King Charles's senior advisors. Traditionally, access to these discussions would have followed long-established royal protocol, especially for someone who had not yet become queen. According to insiders, however, Catherine was increasingly participating in conversations that previously would have remained limited to the king and a much smaller circle of senior figures. If those reports were accurate, the message seemed clear. Charles was no longer preparing Catherine only for the distant future. He reportedly wanted her involved in important decisions much sooner than many had expected. As always, Buckingham Palace offered no official confirmation of any internal changes. That has long been the royal way. The monarchy rarely comments on internal restructuring or explains how responsibilities evolve behind closed doors. Instead, royal watchers often focus on appointments, appearances, responsibilities, and patterns that slowly emerge over time. Many experienced correspondents have often said that the palace communicates more through actions than through words. According to them, when enough quiet decisions all begin pointing in the same direction, they eventually create a picture that becomes difficult to ignore. Meanwhile, reports suggested that Camilla was paying very close attention to everything happening around her. Outwardly, she continued carrying out engagements with her usual calm and professional appearance. Behind the scenes, however, several royal commentators believed growing concern was beginning to build. Some reports claimed she eventually decided she could no longer rely on assumptions about her future role. According to royal biographer Angela Levin and other commentators, Camilla allegedly sought stronger reassurance about her position within the monarchy. The reported request was far more significant than simply asking for verbal support. According to those accounts, Camilla wanted formal confirmation that her remaining responsibilities, her rank, and her position within the institution would remain protected despite any future changes that might take place. Whether those reports fully reflected reality remains impossible to confirm publicly. However, they quickly became one of the biggest talking points among royal commentators because they suggested growing concern about how quickly the monarchy itself was evolving. According to those same reports, the response from palace officials was firm. Rather than providing written guarantees, advisors allegedly argued that the institution needed flexibility as circumstances continued changing. Future responsibilities, they reportedly believed, should always remain adaptable depending on public expectations, constitutional needs, and the long-term interests of the monarchy. If true, that answer carried an unmistakable message. While titles and ceremonial roles could continue, no permanent written commitment would be made regarding future authority or responsibilities. Royal institutions have traditionally avoided locking themselves into arrangements that might later require adjustment. Several commentators suggested the decision reflected a broader philosophy inside the palace. The monarchy has survived for centuries, partly because it adapts to changing times. According to reports, senior advisors were reluctant to create agreements that could restrict future decisions if circumstances continued evolving. People close to Camilla reportedly described her as deeply disappointed by the outcome. Publicly, she remained composed and continued fulfilling official duties exactly as expected. There were no emotional public statements, dramatic confrontations, or visible signs of conflict. Instead, observers claimed something else changed. Camilla reportedly became noticeably quieter. Around royal households, silence often attracts just as much attention as public disagreement, and many commentators believed her reserved approach reflected growing awareness that the institution was entering an entirely new phase. While those developments continued quietly behind palace walls, King Charles appeared increasingly focused on a much larger objective. Ever since becoming king, he has repeatedly spoken about creating a slimmer, more efficient monarchy with fewer working royals carrying greater responsibility. That vision was never presented as a temporary idea or a simple interview talking point. Instead, it became one of the defining themes of his reign. Charles consistently emphasized accountability, efficiency, and concentrating responsibilities among a smaller group of senior working royals capable of representing the institution for decades to come. As those plans gradually developed, many observers believed the future leadership team became increasingly obvious. William and Catherine appeared to be taking on more visible roles, attending more significant engagements, and representing the monarchy in ways that suggested long-term preparation for even greater responsibility. Royal commentators often pointed to their combination of experience, popularity, and public trust as reasons they naturally fit Charles's long-term vision. They represented a balance between continuity and modernization that many believed would help the monarchy remain relevant for future generations. Reports from publications including The Guardian and The Times also fueled discussion about Catherine's expanding role. According to those reports, King Charles was taking a close interest in helping prepare her for future responsibilities by offering guidance, encouragement, and opportunities that reflected increasing confidence in her abilities. Several commentators suggested he reviewed major speeches, encouraged important projects, and ensured Catherine received opportunities that positioned her as one of the institution's leading public figures. Her steady return following cancer treatment only strengthened that perception, with many believing she had become one of the monarchy's most trusted representatives. For Charles, according to these reports, investing in Catherine was not simply about supporting a beloved daughter-in-law. It was about strengthening the future leadership of the monarchy itself by preparing the next generation, long before the official transition eventually arrives. Where did that leave Camilla? According to many royal observers, the answer remained uncertain. She had undoubtedly rebuilt much of her public reputation after years of criticism and had carried out countless engagements with dedication and consistency. Few questioned the resilience she had shown throughout decades of intense public scrutiny. Even so, several commentators believe Charles's long-term vision increasingly focused beyond the present generation. Camilla remained an important figure within today's monarchy, but William and Catherine appeared to represent its future. If those assessments prove accurate, the quiet shift unfolding behind palace walls may have been less about replacing one royal with another and more about preparing the crown for the next chapter long before it officially begins. A respected figure in the present, perhaps, but still a figure of the present rather than the future. According to many royal commentators, King Charles has concluded that the monarchy's future belongs to Catherine and the generation she represents. If those reports are accurate, Camilla now faces the difficult reality of watching her influence slowly fade, with very little ability to stop it. Beyond strategy and long-term planning, there is also a much deeper factor shaping the monarchy, one rooted in memory rather than policy. No discussion about today's royal family can ignore Princess Diana. Nearly 3 decades after her death, her influence still shapes how many people view both the monarchy and Camilla. For many people, Diana remains more than a historical figure. Her legacy continues to influence public expectations of what a modern royal should be. That reality has never completely disappeared, no matter how much time has passed. When Catherine announced her cancer diagnosis in early 2024, the public reaction was immediate and emotional. Many commentators compared the outpouring of support to the extraordinary response following Diana's death. It wasn't simply sympathy for a senior royal. People genuinely felt connected to Catherine, just as millions once felt connected to Diana. That emotional connection is something few members of the royal family have experienced. Diana built it through years of public engagement, while Catherine has earned similar respect through her calm approach, dedication to her family, and the way she handled an incredibly difficult period in her life. No amount of official titles or ceremonial appearances can easily replace genuine public affection. Camilla has carried out years of royal duties with consistency, but many commentators believe public feelings toward Catherine remain much stronger. According to reports, even King Charles understands the importance of public confidence as the monarchy prepares for the future. Royal author Tina Brown has argued that the monarchy still lives with the consequences of the 1990s. Many believe the institution continues learning lessons from how Diana was treated and how the public responded. Catherine's openness during her health battle only strengthened comparisons, even though she has never attempted to become another Diana. Instead, many people simply see qualities they admired before: compassion, dignity, and a willingness to connect with ordinary families. Those similarities continue shaping public opinion, whether the palace welcomes the comparison or not. For that reason, some commentators believe Camilla faces a challenge that cannot easily be solved through official engagements or public appearances. Public perception has developed over decades, and changing it completely may simply not be possible. Looking at the bigger picture, the situation becomes even more complicated. Camilla spent decades fighting for acceptance before finally becoming queen consort. Catherine, meanwhile, never appeared to seek this kind of internal spotlight. Throughout her health recovery, her focus remained on her family, her children, and returning to public service when she was ready. At the center of it all stands King Charles, who has also faced his own health challenges while attempting to guide the monarchy through an important period of transition. According to many observers, that responsibility has forced him to make difficult long-term decisions about the institution's future. The monarchy has survived for centuries by adapting quietly rather than dramatically. Historians often point out that titles and real influence have not always gone hand in hand. Throughout British history, many queens and consorts discovered that wearing a crown did not necessarily mean holding the greatest authority. Some royal commentators believe something similar may now be happening again. Rather than removing Camilla from public life, the institution appears, according to reports, to be gradually shifting more responsibility toward William and Catherine while allowing Camilla to continue representing the crown in an important ceremonial role. If accurate, this would not simply be another routine staff adjustment. Instead, it would represent a significant sign of where the monarchy believes its future lies. Many observers argue that Charles is increasingly investing in Catherine because she has become one of the institution's strongest and most trusted public figures. Public opinion also plays an important role. Surveys have consistently shown strong support for William and Catherine, leading many commentators to conclude that Charles sees them as the monarchy's greatest long-term strength. According to that view, expanding Catherine's responsibilities becomes less about personal preference and more about protecting the institution itself. That strategy may appear practical from an institutional perspective, but it also carries a very human cost. Camilla is not simply a title or a ceremonial figure. She spent decades facing criticism, surviving public hostility, and gradually earning broader acceptance through years of steady public service. After finally reaching the position many believed she would never achieve, reports now suggest that some of her influence may already be shifting elsewhere. Whether or not every report proves accurate, the perception alone creates a difficult situation for someone who spent so many years working to establish her place within the royal family. If the monarchy is indeed preparing its next generation of leadership, difficult choices are almost inevitable. Institutions often prioritize long-term survival above individual expectations, even when those decisions affect members of the family themselves. That may ultimately be the biggest lesson in this entire story. Within the monarchy, positions evolve, responsibilities change, and influence rarely remains permanent. According to many royal observers, the institution always places its future first, even when that means quietly redefining the roles of the people who help shape its present. Whatever the full truth may be behind these reports, one thing is clear. The future of the monarchy continues to spark intense debate. As King Charles, Queen Camilla, Prince William, and Princess Catherine each take on their own roles during this period of change, every decision is being watched more closely than ever. Whether this is truly the beginning of a major shift or simply another chapter in the royal family's long history of evolution, only time will tell. What do you think? Is Catherine naturally becoming the future face of the monarchy, or is Camilla being treated unfairly after everything she has done? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next royal story.